That's the way reality and consciousness works. So once one embraces it and becomes self-governing, then those aspects of our physical reality will disappear.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to the religion which we were just beginning.
Yeah.
And of course, when we talk about boxes, when you call yourself an Indian or a Muslim or a Christian or a European or anything else, you write in your book, you're being violent. Do you see why it's violent? Because you're separating yourself from the rest of mankind. This is a key concept of about separation, and it's not just about labels or names. I've experienced this as in my just as a Christian within the Christian faith. What are you? What church are you? How many are there? Is there one? There's well, are you Episcopalian? Are you Catholic? Are you Methodist? I'm Christian. But I can see the hemispheres sort of buckle because there's the need for the box to say, oh, then therefore I know what you believe and what your values are. Can you share a little bit about why you consider this violence?
Well, I believe all separation is violence because it's moving away from our true nature. Our true nature is of unification, not just being poignant that we're part of one blue and green ball on this planet, but we are all part of creation. We are all part of that one consciousness. We emanate from that. That resonates with you and I now as I speak to you over in New York and I'm here in Australia. The only thing that separates you and I literally is the ideas and the concepts that are built within our mind. So it's the body-mind state of consciousness that we're identifying with. It's not that unified state of consciousness that we are identifying with. That is the problem. So if we are truly one consciousness, which science is only just really discovering, and they have troubles languaging this, but if you understand how to read a lot of ancient scriptures, especially even if you read the Bible or the Quran, they're all pointing to this. It's those who see the surface, then there's those who see the deeper essence of the teachings. But if you understand that it's all unified, then any form of separation is violence. And now that stems to, I think it was Ramana Maharishi once said, it's all learned ignorance, every form of separation, which that's just a beautiful quote for me, because everything that we have in our mind is learned. It's all learned. I learned that I was Australian. I learned that I was male. I learned that my family wasn't so religious. It was all learned along the way. So I had an inbuilt mode of separation. Say, for instance, Carol, I had a mode of separation. Say I was Islamic, built in my psychology.
Right.
And I viewed you. I would view you as Christian, not as Carol, the infinite being, just consciousness. I'd view you as Christian, American, and so forth, a woman. So there's separation. I have this conversation with a lot of researchers where we discuss why is it the way it is at the moment. And it's only fragmentation, it's only separation. I know they come to me with different ideas. They say, yeah, but the government's doing this and doing that. But how are they seeing the world? Are they seeing the world as one, or are they seeing themselves as foreign to the world, as separate to the world, from their own psychology, from their own inbuilt mode of their so-called truth that they perpetuate on the outside? That's the problem that we have in the world. It's separation. Separation is the cause of suffering. That's all there is. And that was the greatest teachings from Buddha, was to get rid of all of those layers back to that pure light, that pure consciousness, and seeing that beauty in every single human being. Not many people can do that, but to peel those layers back of separation that's what freedom is. When we say, like when we see cows and they're boxed into a fence, and then the fence breaks and we see the cows run out, everyone says they're free. Look, they're free. That's what we need to become within. We need to break down those walls of separation. That's where freedom is. We invest a lot of energy into mortgages, into going to church, going to synagogues and all this, but we don't invest any energy into becoming free.
Thank you so much for that answer. It's just right to the point and so insightful. Now, Jason, let's continue where we were before, which was fascinating. You were mentioning basically the splintering of people in so many ways, the labels, the categories, spiritually, culturally, religious, economic, and all these things that separate us. And in your book, you also offer some answers, or begin to address it, regarding the teachings. The teachings say, do not say go to a church or a mosque or synagogue or temple and worship these reference beings, but instead find that church, mosque, synagogue, and temple within ourselves. Can you address that here in more detail as a way of moving forward?
Well, that's what we have done in this world. We've externalized everything about ourselves. We externalize it to find that peace because we don't have a deeper understanding of why we're here on this planet and in this universe. We still believe that the world is without. The world is without to an extent, but the source of the world is within. There's an ebb and flow between. So what we have done over an amount of history is we have tried to language what that is in the external world. What is that feeling within that we get? So we did build religions, we did build mosques, synagogues, churches, to try and feel that, but that feeling can only be felt within. That is why I mentioned before, the kingdom of heaven is within. Jesus was saying that. He wasn't saying go and build a church and follow me for thousands of years, follow my teachings. He was saying freedom is truly within. That's where we need to find it. So we need to come back into our own power and realize that we're more than just the idea of who we are. We are all that there is. That's what we need to realize.
Yes, and that's something I've been thinking about for a long time too. When Jesus says basically, just go talk to people, don't bring anything, just have faith. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate churches and the beauty of them and the need of one place for specific journeys or parts of them. But there's a great shift that takes place when the religion becomes about the building. And we talk about this a lot. Then you're back into the importance of money.
Like, I have nothing against churches and mosques or synagogues or any of those. Like, that they're all great means to find that realization within. I have nothing wrong with that. It's probably the total dependence upon it that puts you into that box. That's what I should have actually said. But we need to realize here that the whole place is a temple. The whole universe is a temple that we live in, and we can appreciate that every day.
And yes, it also the way it's been structured also has people basically committing themselves to, let's say, an hour or two on a weekend to worship or experience something focused on spirituality. But originally it began in the home. All churches met in homes, and many still do. Like, for example, the Amish still meet in people's homes, and it rotates in terms of who hosts the worship. I'm interested in the future of bringing for the sacred back into the home, where the family and the parents are seen as as a source and direct connection for children. What are your thoughts on the basically sacred in the everyday?
Oh, it's 100%. It's imperative for our spiritual growth. Like, my home here is basically, it is like a temple. The way my wife and I live here is basically like a temple. And when a lot of people visit our home, they are humbled in that energy. because we see the importance of living a humble life and always honoring that which connects us all. Like, that is what is imperative in life. It's not how much money we have in the bank. It's to honor that creation and honor that divine spark that's within all of us. That's what we need to honor. It's not the bank account.
Now, something you also have mentioned is about a false form of the path that's been spreading across the planet. It's sort of a trendy form of spirituality. You mentioned this view of the path is nothing more than narrow-mindedness. Could you explain that more?
It goes back to the box theory again, because especially when I lived in India, you see a lot of, especially Western people who go to India because they know it's a very spiritual place, to try and find more about themselves. And they associate there is a whole trend, there's a whole fashion behind this trend, which puts them into a box, because especially when you view some of these people, they live from this dogma and they still project their realness onto other beings who probably aren't as aware as they are. But once you define yourself, you've built a dogma for yourself. You live in a box. So for myself, like that, I'm not saying that everything I'm saying here today is 100% true. You just have to experience it for yourself. But I've shattered all of my belief systems. I'm not saying that I don't live from the mind. We all still do live from the mind. It's like a wave that comes and goes. But I'm not bound by any belief that will put me into a spot of discomfort within the mind, or to put me in a state where I would want to inflict harm on another person. So that's what I was trying to get at when I stated that this view of the path is nothing more than narrow-mindedness, because the spirituality is free. Spirituality doesn't have a dress sense. That's how I see spirituality. Like, organized religion has done its best to kill spirituality. But the deeper essence of religion is spirituality. It's free, it's unbounded. It's there to realize who you are.
Yes, at its core.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I see that. And also, I think many of the religions have, what we call dogma or doctrine or laws, that in much, in earlier history were geared very much to help us to avoid, our own demise, basically. And I think they were very well intentioned. In a way to protect us, but which, there's always a double-edged sword to that, when you want to step out and explore something, as you say, on your own path. Now, you refer to messengers, the messengers in the book, and I know you've mentioned several in our conversation, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, and more, and you say that they're people who lived an example of unity and not division for the world to see. Their message is right in front of our face and ready to unveil this peaceful world. So why do we not listen? You ask, why do we not listen? This is probably the big question, I imagine, in the back of many people's minds when we're watching TV, when we're watching the news, when we're watching the problems. We know what the problems are. They're really plain as the nose on your face. And go ahead. Why do people not listen?